Hello, this is Deborah Anderson, the Black Woman Animator, coming back to you with another video. And in this video, I have Chase Conley. Welcome. Yes. So give a quick bio about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Chase. I've been working out in LA for about 10 years, working in animation. Prior to that, I was working in comics. I'm from the South. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. Spent a little bit of time in Florida as well, but primarily just in the South. And I try to make cool stuff, and I've been out here trying to make cool stuff for like the last 10 years and still continue to try to push the bar and create more Black content, you know?
Yeah, and you succeed in creating cool stuff. So you already said where you're from, Charlotte. How was it growing up? Like, go into that.
You know, it's always interesting. Like, I don't know. For me, I've been drawing my whole life. So it was always a part of me, and it was always a part of my identity. That was like whenever anybody knew me, oh, Chase to be drawing. You know what I mean? Like, that was always what it was. When I was young, so when I was really young, I was in Florida, like for elementary school and stuff. So my mom, when I moved, we moved around a lot, and not a lot, but like enough. And I went to a few different elementary schools, like 4, you know, over time. But and one was in North Carolina, and then 2 were, the rest of them were in Florida. And you know, I had grown up around a lot of adults because early on I was with my grandparents, and so nobody around me that was like under me. You know what I mean? So talking to kids and stuff was a little different because I was used to communicating a different way because people communicated to me a different way. So you know, and that everything that kind of comes with that, you know what I'm saying? And so I used art as my icebreaker because I couldn't, like, I knew how to converse with people, but I wasn't good at engaging first, right? You know, like coming up to a kid and being like, hey, my name's Chase, you know, blah, blah, blah. I just kind of played the background, you know what I mean? I was quiet and I just observed for, you know, every time I got to a new class, I made sure that I was like, I know what I'm gonna draw. And like, I had it planned. I was like, I had it planned. I was like, I'm gonna go to school the next day. I gotta go to this new school. I'm gonna draw. I drew this fire Sub-Zero in 4th grade. And then I had a dude that was like, I guess he was the artist. And so, and he passed that around the class. And the next thing I know, it was like, you know, they're trying to make us battle and all of this stuff. But even automatically, people automatically knew who I was. And you know, and so art was always a valuable asset. Like, it was always valuable for me to be able to you know, have that skill to try to, or at least what I was cultivating into a skill, try to, you know, to have that in my weapon stash. You know what I mean? And it really was helpful. But in many ways, I also too, you know, I was on more of the fanatic side. So like, because I was really obsessed with it, like in a sense of like, I get home, I'm thinking about this, right? Until I go to sleep. And kids are doing that. Other kids are not necessarily doing that, you know. So I had to find other things to relate to, and I use to other people. And so I use sports, you know, for that.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
What sports did you play?
Basketball and football.
Were you good?
I don't miss them. I was all right. People were nice, you know. People were nice. Like, I knew early on, like, I remember my middle school coach in basketball, Atlanta Middle School. He was like, you just ain't, I see you must be just focusing on your art this year, huh? And I was like, I didn't know how to think that. You know what I'm saying? And but then I thought about it, and he was like, it was true though. Because when I normally be getting shots up, you know, or practicing my free throws or just getting my cardio up, I had been drawing because I was getting better and I was gaining more understanding, you know. And we're fans of stuff first. Fans of stuff first. So it's like when you get good enough to draw it, you want to draw it. Like, I'm still the same way. Like, I grew up loving X-Men. I draw X-Men. So what? That's what I like. You know. And that's kind of just what it's always been. But I developed that little bit of a duality, but I think that also too benefited me because I don't know, it was a meditative time where I'm actually actively thinking about how, and having to be self-aware and thinking about people's reception to me, you know, versus
Mm-hmm.
And am I presenting sides of myself? Am I, you know what I mean? A lot of that stuff that I probably wouldn't have even thought about or considered. And I think that was real helpful also in the sports aspect too, because I was more mindful about certain things, you know?
Yeah.
I'm an artist through and through, so I can find the through line and parallel with it somehow, you know?
It's funny what you said about art was kind of how I felt about, I don't really watch. I played basketball too, and I didn't really watch basketball. I remember the WNBA came out maybe when I was in middle school.
Oh yeah, when Cheryl Swoops and
Lisa Leslie and Rebecca Lobo.
Years, right?
Yeah,
they were destroying people.
Yeah,
destroying people. I was like, this is not fair. Like they got to break this team up or something. Like 4 years in a row, 4 years.
Yeah, and then like I'll be watching, and I'm like, but this just made me want to go out and play. So that's what it kind of related. Like, but I
know that feeling.
Don't play basketball. Like, why I gotta watch it on TV?
Yeah, I know that feeling. I wouldn't watch basketball when I was drawing because I wanted to go outside. I loved it still. You know what I mean? I had to go outside. Like, it's like if I don't, first off, don't watch a game and then Kobe hit some fadeaway or something like that. You know, we talking about 97, like 98, the year he got drafted. I think I still got the Sprite cans that me and Grant Hill had that year. I don't think I opened them yet.
Wow.
Basement. Yeah, from like 98, 99, something like that, when they had that Sprite campaign. But, you know, I think that, and then I had more crossover with Space Jam when that came out. You know, like Space Jam 97, I was in 5th grade. I remember being like, because it was Looney Tunes, realized to, I was already watching some anime by the time. But it was Looney Tunes realized to a cinematic level that I hadn't seen. And I was just like, oh, this is cool, so vibrant. And it's Jordan, you know, and a lot of that keeps you in it. You know, my mom was always very valuable and giving me everything that I needed that would inspire me, whatever she could afford to give me, you know, she gave me. And I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah, the Space Jam soundtrack was monumental in my life. Like, like, like the Bugs Bunny rap. Like,
in 5th grade, I had to sing that at my 5th grade graduation. I was not ready, you know, so shy. I was so shy. I was in the back.
You had a solo?
Hmm?
Did you have a solo?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was just like,
even to be in the choir, like.
This is too much for me. It's too much. I just didn't feel right, and we're hitting high notes and all of that. Like I'm not. I was already too cool for that. Like no.
Yeah, that is a perfect graduation song, or like a performance song. So, can we get back more into like, okay, your relation to art and animation in your childhood? How do you think you got so good so soon?
Well, I appreciate that. You know, it's so for me, this is the way I think about it, and I'll just be frank about it. You know, I personally feel like I've always tried to measure myself against the top, and I've always had a great understanding of where I lie in that. Right now, there is some healthy level of delusion, right? Because you know, I remember thinking of like. I was in 5th grade, and like, you know, there's certain things because I already had 10,000 hours. Yeah. And I think that for me, because I grew up around my grandparents when I was young, they had me when I was young, right? 1 to 6 before I went 1 to 7. Yeah. And you know, I grew up with my grandfather out in the fields on roofs, doing all that kind of stuff, building things and stuff like that. And when I got time to just draw, I was happy to just be drawing too. You know what I mean? I don't have to cut the grass. So I was really into that. And I got into that real early. Then they bought me a drafting desk. Every time we would go to town, he'd buy me a comic or something like that. And I was drawing directly from those comics. Yeah. And the titles that I was getting were Jim Lee. You know, we're talking about 91 to 5, right? You know, the comics was on fire then. Everything was larger than life, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I just put my whole foot in it, and I really, I was drawing from comic book panels first, drawing from comic book panels, but I always wanted to not draw from reference. Okay, so I always practiced in a way that I'm storing information to be regurgitated in a more simplified, streamlined form. I've always thought about that because I've never wanted to be adherent on reference. I just, for whatever reason, I don't know why. I have no idea why. Mainly because I always wanted to feel like the idea that I could do it myself, you know, and not have to depend on it, even very early on. And I just did studies of comic book panels. Before you know it, you start adapting like the problem solving language. Yeah. Of how they problem solve shadows, shapes, forms, you know, accessories, and you start to understand the language of comics. But I was really understanding that language. I started doing studies of it so early that by the time I got to high school, I was pretty experienced as an artist. Like and then I went to the School of the Arts for middle school. Though that didn't necessarily, because comic book art, and you know, especially back then, there was a very clean separation between fine art and comic art, right? Yeah. So they didn't teach any of that, but being exposed to some like almost like collegiate level training, and because it's the School of the Arts, and I was in the magnet program, I had to go all the way across town to go to school in Jacksonville, which is like the biggest city in the state, I mean, in the country, in square miles, like. I had to go over like 2 bridges and all of that. Like it was, but it was great. And I think that by that time, because I was in the School of the Arts, I knew that I was around people that were encouraging me. This art is a profession. It is a profession. You can do this. It is a way that you can make a living. You can become this. And I had all that reinforcement, and I just knew what I wanted to do. And by that time, people were telling me I was pretty good. I didn't know. You know, people were telling me that. And I remember taking some of my artwork because I was like, my mom, I took some of my artwork to the comic book shop. I was about 14. I moved to Charlotte then to high school. And I took my artwork to the comic book shop. This was Heroes Aren't Hard to Find. And the artist, I mean, the guy that was working the register, I was just like, why I asked him? He's not an artist. I was just like, hey, can you review my portfolio? Like, I didn't know. You know, I made it to the comic book shop. That's all I know that I needed to do. Like the old leather portfolio with my, you know, my pages that I'm drawn in big Papermate pen. I've tried to get the perfect feathering and all that stuff. And he was like, this is better than 70% of the stuff that's on the shelf. Wow. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I didn't think so because I'm looking at like, you know, just legendary people. Like I had grown up with legendary people. I didn't necessarily think about it. Like I wanted to make sure I was good enough to work, you know, like good enough to get work. And that was encouraging. And so I started to really then, you know, and as my brain, you know, I'm becoming more sophisticated in terms of how I'm thinking about art because I'm 14, 15. Yeah. 15. And then, you know, you're getting into, you know, you're getting ready to graduate and all that stuff. I use the next 3 years to buckle down and really get my portfolio together. And every year I took my portfolio to the comic book convention. So that next year, that year when I was 14, I went to Heroes and they were like, Heroes Aren't Hard to Find, the comic book shop. And they were like, we have this con, man. Next year you got to go. He gave me free tickets. Nice. I waited a year with those tickets. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh, I can't wait. And then, you know what I'm saying? And I got in, and this was one of their biggest shows ever. It had like 10,000 people that year. And then I met like Caroline Grant, who's like my big brother. I met LaShawn Thomas. I met Stephen Green. And a host of other people, but those being and Brian Stelfreeze, those being 4 brothers that I met. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is the level of like, you know what I'm saying? Like this is the echelon. And there are people that look like me that that are like, and that are into the same shit that I'm into. So I just use that. And then every year I would bring my stuff. They give me notes. I'd address those notes. I practiced a year and so on and so forth. So by the time I was 18, I was able to get a comic book job. Nice. But it wasn't a good job, and it didn't last long. And from that point, it was like failure after failure, trying to get work. We're talking about back in the digital webbing days.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So I just
Man,
couldn't.
I remember when because I had taken 7 classes at a community college when I was in high school, and I was still at the like brink of the web stuff, and I was like, web design. Why would I take that class? Like, bruh, why didn't I take that class? I could have been making money with designing websites.
I wish there was there's a lot of things I think if I would have paid more attention to them, not looking at them from, because, you know, when I'm young, I'm brash, you know, I'm like, I want to, you know, I know everything, basically. And I missed out on a lot of opportunities to learn some things that I think would have been like a knowledge I could have applied now.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, I do look at the journey fondly. It's different in terms of I don't necessarily feel levels of regret, but I do at certain times I go through waves of that. But I'm pretty happy with like how I got to where I got to. Now, in terms of like specifics, I just practice. You know, I practice, but I practice efficiently I'm a strong believer in so that I can book in that because I think it's important. I'm a strong believer in you only have a certain amount of bandwidth. Yeah. And art is subjective. Like beauty is subjective in certain instances. It's not subjective. There are certain rules, right? When you're following technical things, right? It all depends on what your art is trying to accomplish. But there is a difference between good art and bad art. And people have to acknowledge that fact. Now, at that point, I think that if you get to over that stage, then you have to try to figure out, okay, what do I want out of my artwork, and who am I trying? What level of potency, right? So then I just try to pick the most potent artists that have the most information in their work, like perfect anatomy, perfect motion, perfect line weight, you know, all of that stuff. The people that put it together the best. Yeah. Because there are people that are great at certain things, like, oh, he's great at kinetic energy. He's great. No, I only study the people that put it together the best because I'm trying to put it together. So I need to understand their system and their language, because they've made a language, and they have rules of operation, how they tackle specific things. And I only study that stuff. Yeah. Now those things change, but I think for the most part, they stay pretty much the same, because
the foundation is the foundation.
Right. You know when you see something that's fire. Like, it's just like, I can look back, and I always use Joe Mad because he was so influential to so many of us. I can look back on that shit and it's still fire. Like it was fire then, and it's fire now, you know. And it's so I just study that kind of stuff, and it's never about what the most popular is. It's more about like what the most potent approach is. And I think if through that and repetition, you start to adopt their systems, and next thing you know,
so
that's kind
of foundation, and the practicing is the muscle memory, which causes you don't have to do as much reference. I wonder if like hanging around older people when you were young is what the maturity comes from, because like I'm teaching 9th and 10th graders, and I had to have a come to Jesus meeting with them because like last semester they didn't turn, like most of my students did not turn in their work. And I was like, do y'all understand that you go to a media arts high school in which me and the music production teacher are industry professionals? We're not just teachers that went to college.
Knowledge that you can implant them with that they use in the workforce.
But the most important part, I was like, you doing your assignments is building your reputation in my class. I refuse to give you to like refer you to an internship, a job. I will not write you a recommendation letter if you did not turn in work in my class.
Yeah, like how does that work? Like, you know, and why would you expect that? Like, I don't care how good you are. It's a matter of discipline, right?
There's adults that expect things they shouldn't expect.
Job, not just do the job, you know. Maybe it's
telling your story. It sounds very mature.
I think it's, you know, I didn't hang out with a bunch of kids. You know what I'm saying? I just never did hang out with kids, and it wasn't because I didn't want to. I just didn't. You know, I didn't. In a lot of those like formative years, you know, I was out there like, you know, I was born, and where my mother was born and raised is Morganton, North Carolina. That's a small rural community, you know what I mean? And like, you know, that's where my family came from. I'm dating back to slavery, you know what I'm saying? And there's just old land, and we got gardens, and you know, I got aunts and uncles, and they, you know, they all live on one big piece of land, but they all grown, and all of their kids are my mom's first cousins. You know what I'm saying? So there was no kids,
right?
You know? There was just no kids, and ain't nobody playing a board game with you. I remember one Christmas, I got mad board games. I got Crossfire. You know how sad it is when you got Crossfire, ain't nobody to shoot no marbles at. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody got time. He don't have time. Like my grandfather been working, my grandmother too. They both worked well into their 60s in furniture factories. You know, they took me to school early, and I came home late. You know what I mean? Because I had to be in the extended day thing.
Yeah,
he was trying to play no board games, and I also, you know, kids are sensitive to that stuff. Like we pick up on that. I knew that they were tired and they didn't want to be bothered. You know what I'm saying? So I just made it, because I saw how hard they worked, I needed a way to occupy myself. And, you know, it just was one of them things. And they were just happy they didn't have to be bothered with worrying about me getting into anything. And so it became real easy for them to support, to a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there, some colored pencils here, you know.
Yeah, let's go get more into that. Like, because, you know, a lot of, sometimes artists, we grow up with people like parents or grandparents who are not supportive. Can you go more into specifically how your grandparents and your mother supported you through your art?
Yeah, I think, well, so early, like I said, like my grandfather, he could draw.
Nice.
And my great grandfather was also a very creative guy. You know, my Grandpa Buster, he died when I was a little kid. I do remember seeing him in the hospital. I remember him being around. I remember seeing him. I remember his last words to me, but I wasn't young enough to try to even ask, you know, my mind wasn't even anywhere to get any kind of wisdom from him or ask him any kind of questions about anything like that. And he used to carve these immaculate like ducks, like mallard ducks out of wood, all types of stuff. My grandfather could draw. So he saw me drawing. I just naturally was drawing. Just started. And he saw me drawing at dinner at the table, and he introduced me to the concept of drawing through your shapes first. When he showed me how to draw a box, you know, just that typical box, and he showed me how to draw it in 3 dimensions, and it was like, and then he drew a milk bottle, you know, for me, and
was he using the circles?
He was using like an ellipses, like he like drew the top. Then he drew the rim of it, and then he drew the bottom, and then he just connected the sticks together. It was very simple and crude, but it showed me process and breaking things down into simple shapes. So he introduced that concept to me. That shit, it was like a seed. And I was just like, okay, I understand it. And I started breaking things down into simple shapes on my own. And so we would go into town to check the mail, like, you know, because he had to go to the post office, but he always had to drive about 10 minutes, you know, to get to the next town, to get to the post office. And the pharmacy always had comics, because you could buy comics everywhere back then. Like in the 90s, like we're talking about like a family-owned pharmacy, but you know, they had magazines like Cosmopolitan and all that stuff. They had comics too. They had DC and Marvel comics, and I would always get X-Men and Spider-Man comics. And then because it weren't but a couple bucks, I wouldn't ask all the time, because I would have one and I would cherish it so much. I would learn it front to back. So I wouldn't want to ask for much else. And when we would go to Kmart, he'd buy me the Fleer Ultra cards, because in the X-Men cards and the Marvel cards were all in the aisles. You know, I mean, you know, it's the impulse buy section right there at the checkout. So, you know, we're already at the checkout. Like, come on, it's only $3. Yo, can you give me these cards, Pop? You know what I'm saying? And then I would take them home, and then I start to see art realized on a whole other level. See somebody like the Hildebrand brothers, their painted cards back in the day. Like, you know, like, oh man, and that was the closest to real life that you saw that kind of stuff. So then my mind just expanded, and they were giving me stuff and like stuff like that. One Christmas, my mom bought me a drafting desk, like a little small one of the little tiny, you know, like a white one, like one that you probably have for a kid, you know, but But it was a real drafting desk, and I just sat and drew and drew and drew. And if I needed, but I just needed pencil and paper. I didn't need anything else, and I didn't, because I didn't know how to accomplish anything else. And then when I got to elementary school, my mom went to go live with my mom, like probably second grade, third grade, or something like that. And she wanted to she had been doing research because she knew I drew. Yeah. So she immediately got me into like Hendricks Avenue Elementary. Hendricks was like, it's not a school of the arts, but they're around the corner from the middle school of the arts. So those kids go to that school. Nice. And then we got Douglas Anderson, which was the high school of the arts. And so she got me on that track. So we were in I went to Hendricks Avenue and did third grade there. And then fourth grade, the first day of fourth grade, we get into a crazy car accident. And with 3 semis and everything. And my mom's car, she couldn't drive me across town. So I had to go to the neighborhood elementary school with, all the people that I would see after school anyway. Like the people, you know what I'm saying? I would be the one that went across town and come back, Yeah. So it wasn't nothing, but it was different. And I was still drawing, but she made me audition for, and I got picked in the lottery for the middle school. And so I went back across town. And at that point, they got all the art supplies. I'm bringing home stuff I ain't supposed to be bringing home, like mad color pencils and the India ink bottles, and the fountain pens. And now at this point, I'm like, I got some paper because they got paper. So I'm really going in now, and I'm trying to make my drawings look like the comics by like using the Crayola color pencil, super opaque. And then going back over top of that with a fountain pen because it can scratch away some of the wax. Yeah, get that, and it goes on top of it. So and then the Uniball pens back in the day, the ink will flow over top of it. And I was just trying to make comic book images, And so she just put me in the position to win if I ever needed anything. And then she always like my mom, she read in the newspaper that Spawn was a comic book that had an all-black cast, pretty much. And she just bought it, Spawn #1, just for that, and brought it home. I came home from school in 4th grade, and she was like, "Yeah, I got you this comic. I read about it, and I found the comic book shop across town." Dap my mom up, you know what I'm saying? So like, things like that just always put me in a position to win. Like my mother's always supported me. She never doubted me for an instant, and never put a seed in my mind that I couldn't, be a great artist and someday or draw what I wanted,
Nice. So let me list out some of the projects that you've worked on, just so like people can know Black folk worked on some of your favorite stuff.
Yeah.
So, Animation, Domination, High Def, Black Dynamite, X Cop, Major Lazer, Ultimate Spider-Man, Batman and Harley Quinn, Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beast, Blood of Zeus, Puss in Boots Season 4. You've done Ark Survivor, Evolved, Sonic 2, Pantheon. You've done some stuff too.
What was the last part?
Trill League.
Oh yeah, and Trill League too. So yeah, that's kind of like like I've done a lot of other random things too.
I know you said you did the Westbrook commercial, the Ben Simmons Champs commercial, a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff, like a lot of little pilot things. Oh, 2 episodes of Blackish. We did some like the Juneteenth episode. They wanted a Schoolhouse Rock style song of I'm Just a Slave, though. It's a remix with Aloe Black and Tariq. But we did that, and that was really big. It was dope because Kenya needed that last minute. We were able to get that done. And he hit us back again. And we did another little animated segment based off of Kadir Nelson's painting. He had painted a dope, Kadir is like a dope painter, a legendary painter for the New Yorker magazine. And for the common folk too, that don't watch like he also did Drake's album cover, the one in the clouds. I tell people, they be like, "Oh, okay, I got you." So You know, it's that joint. And so when Trump, there was this whole thing that happened, and it was a spoof episode.
Yeah.
They just aired it recently, right? I think they just
I was wondering if that was the one that was delayed.
Yeah, so they pulled it from because of our segment and that Kenya had written, and they didn't air the episode. So we were down about it. We got paid, but he hit us back in that because he was like, that was 2 episodes that same season. We were like, oh, maybe this will be like it's cool to pop in and do some consistent things for something so high profile as Blackish, right? But then he ended up walking from that and doing Black AF now. So that's awesome too.
Yeah.
But just a bunch of little stuff and pilots and developmental work and stuff like that people might not ever see. They won't not see the light of day, but a million things, so many things that I've forgotten some stuff because I think I work like a crazy man sometimes. But
yeah, and just imagine a lot of people I interview was in their 60s and 70s, so they forgotten half to 75% of the stuff they done.
Oh, I did work on that. Like, yeah. I've packed out my 10 years as much as I could with long-term employment too. A lot of places I stayed at for a year. So it's like it's not a lot, but it is like it's 10 years, like 10 years worth of work, and I feel fortunate. And I worked on a lot of Black content, or a lot of content that had a lot of Black characters, and
which these days is a privilege, to work on Black stuff.
I got spoiled working on Black Dynamite season 1. I thought everything was gonna be like that. I didn't realize if you dropped the bomb on that building, you could have hit everybody Black in the animation, probably. Keeping it a buck, you know what I'm saying? I didn't realize that at the time.
That's the exact same thing they said about that 90s meetup of like Black people in animation. They met at some soul food restaurant. They was like, oh man, if they dropped the bomb,
right? It'll be over. We can't all be gathered together like this. Like, you know what I'm saying? We gotta plan this out right and show up in thirds. You know what I'm saying?
Just like they do with the president, like the president, vice president can't fly on the same plane.
Right. Same difference. You know what I mean? We got to be more mindful about that now. But thankfully that group would be bigger. It will be much bigger now, and that makes me happy. You know what I'm saying? It makes me happy, very, very happy.
So when I was watching the Russell Westbrook and the Ben Simmons commercials, there's like is it your choice? Do you like this like top down like perspective? Like there's like these characters and you look in the top down and it's like, is that your style? Like, is that your choice to do that?
It's not a style thing.
Or you just like that shot?
Well, I have love-hate relationships with those shots. With 3/4 down shots, it depends. It depends. And just on some animation game, it's like if the character's moving, if they're walking or something, I don't do 3/4 down shots because they're not gonna come. They're not gonna come back from overseas looking right. Especially if I don't draw it right. I'm not trying to expect them like to ship it back and it look right, right? So try to avoid 3/4 down like walking shots. But most often than not, that's just to squeeze in the most information in the frame. So I just was trying to get because they're tall kids. I mean, they're like like Ben Simmons is 6'10". You're trying to get 2 different heights in the frame. And also, it's a Champs commercial. You want to try to get they were adamant about the shoes. All of that stuff were all articles of clothing. They gave me all the photos, and I had to choose, and so they were really adamant about that. Excuse me. So most of that stuff is mainly just anytime I ever do that kind of shot, is either to break up a series of shots that are starting to feel stale to grab somebody's attention. Now I think about it from much more of a sophisticated standpoint, more than I was actually thinking with that one. I think that was mainly rooted in, and if you see it in a lot of stuff, it's about trying to get as much information in the frame as you can. But typically, I do it to kind of balance out a sequence. Or if I just want to showcase, like, if I just want to do something dynamic,
that's why I picked it up. I was like, because I had watched it back to back.
It kind of grabs you. It's a storytelling thing where it's like, I'm much better about pulling back because I feel like if I do it for a reason. You know, like I don't do anything like gratuitous anymore. You know, I'm very, like my intent is like laser focused.
Yeah.
But you know, so I don't know if I would have used that shot. That's basically what I'm saying. I don't know if I would have still done that shot like that. But it's fun though, and it's dynamic, it's quick, and you know, if you're gonna have a still image that's not moving, because I don't think that one was moving. I just wanted to give it an interesting something interesting to look at and add like a drift to it or something like that, so that we're seeing something dynamic on screen, and we can the fact that it's not moving at all.
So on your IMDb, I'm wondering, is this credit for this journey of August King? Is that for real?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay.
Yeah, because some people, I've been trying to clear them, but there's another Chase Conley that also something. And
I'm like, was you trying to be an actor or something?
Yeah, and I was like, no, and he's an actor, right? He's an actor. He's credited in films in the 90s. It's like, yo, I was a kid, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that's not me.
It's not me.
You know, but yeah, no, and there's a few credits on there. Like a few. And I was like, who is this guy? That was the reason why I started updating my IMDb. Like this was just last year, because I was like, oh, this is all associated with the same account. Let me throw a picture up on there, you know. Especially because as we get older and I realize the importance of being able for people to be able to see us.
Yeah.
See that we out here. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it's just for that reason though, just to kind of tighten it up, because there was some film credits in it. I don't even know if that movie's good, like, you know.
I don't be associated with it. Katie is in there, so it might be good. Can you tell us more about your time in South Korea?
Yeah, it was cool. So my boy Billy was living there, and him and his girl Luda, his now wife, they were living there, and they had been living there for 4 years already. They were Hagwon teachers, and so they were private English instructors. And he was like, "Look, man, I'm getting homesick, and I want to come home, but I want you to come over and stay while you have the chance to stay like this, because we got 2 apartments. She's got her place provided by the government. I got my place."
True.
So I took all of my stuff, and I didn't tell my job I was leaving. I just bounced, and I took my laptop and my scanner, and also LaShawn had been over there at the time 2 years already. And he had been over there for 2 years. So I just left and just stayed, because I just wanted to draw. I wanted to get out of Charlotte. The thing that was great about it for me was, you know, anytime Black people get to travel, I think is important. That was my first time out of the country. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of things, a lot of the superficial nonsense that, you know, we kind of get bogged down in our neighborhoods, in our communities.
Yeah.
When you're able to just kind of detox from that completely, take yourself out of that completely. I can't even tell you like the level of clarity, you know, like that you get. And I think just that high being, and also being so close to, there's a cult like culturally they read comics at all ages, you know, and it was just people appreciate what I do here.
Yeah.
You know, because I felt like I was, you know, for years I kind of felt like nobody really appreciated what, you know, like they don't really care, and the money's not that great, and you know, all that stuff. But over here, you know, they got video games, 24-hour video game channels that are streaming again. This is way before Twitch and all this stuff that we have now, right? Now that's just the norm. But Korean culture, and also too, seeing how Black culture affected the world, because their top 40 was our top 40, right? That's all Black. That's Black music. You know what I mean? Their fashion, everything.
I always tell people you could walk down the street.
We amazing, and it was just like, so that was I was like, for me, it hit me so hard that I was like, it inspired the work I was doing, and that work eventually got me the job on Black Dynamite.
Like you could walk down the street and, like, you know, they had these dance studios and it would be like bullet points in Korea, like Harlem Shake and like I'm like what? And then like and then like there's this a gospel choir heritage. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Heritage. I think it was called Heritage Gospel or something like that. And they've gone viral on well, even back then they went viral on social media. And I was like, man, I gotta go to one of their concerts. I wanted to get the DVD. I did go to one of their concerts, but it's like they have schools to teach Black gospel.
Yeah, crazy. I saw this cat walking down the street with a Dickie fit on. Years. I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. It was like, wow, this is different. But like, but to that point, it was also too, I was so welcome there by people that it made me feel, because it's like, you don't always feel that necessarily in America.
Yeah.
Being Black in America with the things that come with that, and we don't have to dive into the nuance of that, but I felt that like, I didn't want to leave. You know what I mean? Because I felt like for once I was like, even if they may look at me as a character at first when they talk, right? But until they talk to me, right? Because that this idea of me is like, what is he, a soldier, or does he play basketball?
Yeah.
Or a rapper? And it's like, no, I draw comics. It was a conversation starter, and then it's just. And then it was dope, and it really helped reinforce the fact that I wanted to work in animation, because when I was there, I was working in comics. I was finishing up the Dresden Files, for Dynamite Entertainment, and Full Moon Part 1. I was doing the pages for that, and my work was just getting more and more because I was sitting at home all day. My homeboy went to go teach.
Yeah. And
he's teaching. I'm just watching stuff all day, like getting inspired, and my work was just changing in the book. You could see it. It was just like changing. And I just was like, oh, and I had at the same time, a couple years prior, before that, I had gotten a comment on DeviantArt when I posted a picture of myself. And this person was like, yo, I would have thought that you were Japanese or Korean because of your art. That's crazy that you're Black. Then I looked at my gallery. I had no Black people in my gallery. I find
that like a lot of Black artists, not a lot, but some Black artists go through that where they're like, it's usually a person like in their family who's like, why don't you never draw no Black people? But you never think of it.
It's just like, well, because we're just regurgitating what we see, right? And we're fans of this stuff. Like I'm a fan of Thor and all these characters, all these, that we grew up with. I'm a fan of all of it. I'm a fan of all of it. I'm gonna draw it because it's cool. You know what I'm saying? But that's because there's not many other options. You know what I mean? And that once I saw that and I saw how accepting, it resonates on different levels. I saw how accepting they were of me. I saw the effect of our culture on a global scale. I'm seeing like the level of art. Like I'm going to manhwa like cafes, seeing the level of art that's just in these books, and you know what I mean. And it just was like, oh, I got to step my game up. So it really made me push and push. And I had reached out to Jay Aliba. I talked to Jay Aliba at the time, and he was, his class, he'd take his storyboard class, and he was like one of the premier instructors and still is. And he hit me back and was like, bro, just get $800, and try to find some lodging and come out here and take this class. And most of the time, I try to help people get placed if they're good. So I plan. And then I went to go see LaShawn, and he had Black Dynamite season 1, like the pilot stuff, actually. The pilot that Titmouse had done. These are the drawings that I think Juno Lee had drawn. And I was like, what in the fuck is this? Because it was all of the shit that I was talking about, right? Yeah. And then just imagine, so we took the bullet train up to Seoul. I go into LaShawn is working at Mir at the time, so he's working on season 1 of Korra. It's quiet as hell in there. It's a whole different culture, I'm just like,
yes, oh my god,
it was just different. And so I was just like, I gotta be on my A game. You know what I mean? And it was just it was everything happened at the right time. It aligned. Yeah. And he was talking about coming back to LA at the time. And I was like, I gotta move out. And he hooked me up with Carl Jones, and Carl liked my stuff, and Chris and Shannon Pronowski hit me up, and they were, they own Titmouse, and everybody, as a mutual thing, everybody kind of, next thing I know, I was in LA, and I just never left here. You know what I mean? So
you were in South Korea from when to when?
It's like a year.
So like what month of?
2011.
You said what?
2010 and 2011-ish.
That's crazy. We could have met each other if I knew you were there.
I feel like you're not the only person to tell me that. So
I did get to meet LaShawn. So like,
I know LaShawn was there, and LaShawn had to visit him while I was there. Like, yeah, so there was a few people.
So there was a Facebook group called Brothers and Sisters of South Korea that would have events, and so they had an event where they played the Boondocks, and they had LaShawn come talk. So that's how I got to meet LaShawn the first time. I met him the second time when I was in New Orleans. But yeah, like just to kind of reiterate some of the stuff that you were saying. So like before living in South Korea, I never thought about being American. The most I ever felt American was saying it over and over again to Korean people. Like, 미국 사람. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I am American, I guess. But I never thought about it before. I never felt American before living in a foreign country and having to say American over and over.
Surprisingly, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, what were you about to say?
I was gonna say, surprisingly, I didn't feel that way. Like I felt like that, but didn't, because I saw so much. I just saw so much of like hip hop culture everywhere, and you know,
I'm saying like in America, I didn't feel American.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Going to a foreign country and being like, I'm American, because they don't know where Detroit is. So I could just say I'm American, and I'm like, okay, this is the most I've ever felt American because I'm saying it over and over again.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point. Yeah.
And so like and then it's a difference for me when I because I went over there as an English teacher, and then the second year I worked at Digital Animation in Seoul, and so when I started working at Digital Animation, they would like bring people around to like show me off because I was like, you know, there was foreigners working directly for Fox and Warner Brothers, but I was like working directly for Digital Animation, like I call myself a minion, but it was a difference between being a Black token in America and being an international token in Korea. Like it wasn't as sleazy. Like they just wanted to show off that they had a foreigner working. Like in America, it's kind of like, I don't want you to show me off.
Yeah, no, I get that. I you know, that's interesting. I never really thought about that.
Yeah, so I was like, it felt less sleazy.
House anywhere, but I could see that. But it definitely feels a lot less sleazy in many.
Yeah, and I agree with you when like the expanding of your mind, because I didn't go into living in Korea like an arrogant American, but I always highly suggest, like, if you can live outside of America, it is mind opening, because there's other ways to live that are correct but aren't the way we live.
Mm-hmm. No,
and
absolutely.
Then in Korea, like, have you ever seen like a Korean person that looked like they could be they're the first version of a Black person? Like they have the broad nose, the big lips.
All faces come from Africa, number one, right? Let's be clear. And it's one of those things where we have the same features.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same features. Like it's not even, it's just, you know, they just, you know, there's slight variation. But I've seen that where I'm like, you know, I'll be thinking about like somebody was saying like Nelson Mandela could easily be a Chinese man. Mm-hmm. Like when you go to certain parts of China, when you see certain faces and certain parts, it's just like, oh, that is Nelson Mandela. Like that's like, because it's the same face. And then there's a few like the Korean tribes or groups of people. Aren't there some like melanated, very like highly melanated. I need to
There's highly melanated people everywhere.
Everywhere. You know what I mean? But there's this one tribe where it's like, yo, they're black people. They like it's really trippy. It ain't trippy. It ain't trippy. It's trippy that it's trippy.
I went to Jeju Island and they had a dish there. I was like, this is greens. This is greens.
This is right. You know, that's what I'm saying. They like spicy food. I like spicy food. You know, I'll tell you something.
And they took the American soldiers teaching them how to fry chicken. They took it to not the level.
Another level, a completely different level. I mean, you see all these spots popping up now. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, to your point, it's like that whole awakening is like, you know, I needed to be there for an extended period of time, you know, because it's like you can't shotgun. And also it was therapeutic, you know, and it took a while for me to kind of unravel what my bag was and what I needed to figure out, you know, what my next steps were going to be, you know. So, and it made the transition to LA so much easier because it was like, I was over there. This is like coming home, you know what I mean? It was nothing. It was like where it probably would have been much bigger of a culture shock for me coming from, you know, Charlotte to LA prior, you know, it was just like,
yeah, some people were worried about me moving to LA. I'm like, I'm not from New Orleans. Like, I've lived everywhere, so I'm gonna be good. That's just another place.
Yeah,
but and people thought I was from New Orleans, and they're like, "Oh man, that's gonna be a huge culture shock." I was like, "No, it's not. I'm not from here."
I never settled in one place long enough to really feel like I was in 10 years in Charlotte, 10 years in Jacksonville, then 10 years, you know, then 10 years out here. So it's like, where am I from? You know what I mean? You know, I got ties to certain places for certain things. You know, that's kind of as far as it goes. You know, but beyond that, you know, I've thought about living anywhere. Have you thought about living anywhere international again? I got approached for a couple jobs, but I just don't know if I want to live anywhere else but California because I smoke so much weed.
For me, it's like I would live internationally again as long as it was easy for me to get back. Because the 2 years I was in Korea, when I had the time, I didn't have the money, and when I had the money, I didn't have the time. So as long as I can get back to visit my family, then I would do it.
Right. Yeah. I thought about going to, you know, like I always think about like just where can we cultivate talent in communities that, because, you know, I know that there are people that are amazing. They just need like, have you thought about and giving it a shape, you know?
Yeah.
But have you thought about comics? Have you thought about games? And have you thought about, you know, and just being like, this is what this stuff is, and this is what because if they just have that clarity, like that aimless wondering, like, you know, that is one thing I'm very fortunate about is like to your early question is I really feel like I knew what I wanted to do from the rip. And I would be scared if like to think about the alternative. You know what I mean? It's like, man, if I can help anybody avoid that, the information sooner, you know. And so just being able to be in a place like that, you know, I don't know where that'll be. Maybe it'll be some exotic locale, you know, maybe I want to, you know, see some water or something.
Yeah.
You know?
And the last thing about Korea, when you said it was like really quiet, yes, it is. Like I will be working at my desk and I'm like, if I just open a bag of potato chips, it will be too loud.
It's gonna be so loud. Like, yo, I met Young Ki Yoon, who was our supervisor director on Kipo and just overall legend. And I was on my American shit and I was hungover from the night before, so I wasn't as like, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't as
that was your small world experience when you went to Korea, or
say it again.
Didn't you have like a small world experience where you went to Korea and saw somebody that you had worked with? Or
yeah, that was him.
Yeah.
And so when I first met him, we had gone out drinking the night before. My homeboy Billy, he pulled over, like LaShawn was in the cab with us. We had to pull the cab over so Billy could Earl out the door. It was bad. And we were trying to pull it together, you know what I mean? And so anyway, we had drank on like Hooker Hill that night. You know, just on that strip of bars. And so we were drinking like Kool-Aid shot, like everything that gives you a hangover. We had it. And I was pulling it together, but you know, I was on my American shit where it was super quiet. I didn't say anything, but I saw Young Yoon had this hat on, and Young had a Doosan Bears hat on, and I was like, "Ha! They got their ass whooped last night because we had just seen the Busan Tigers play them, and Ideho, who was like their home run, they had smashed on them, and I just, before I knew it, I was like, oh shit, I just like blurted that out loud, hella loud. It's quiet in here, you know. And that's the first time I'd ever seen the genders separated into offices. Yeah, I had never seen that. Like the studio I had gone to, the women were in one, and the men were in another.
Yeah, like ours was mixed because I was in the 3D department because I go by BlkWmnAnimator, but I'm a 3D modeler, and so our department was small. But something I did notice, so there was a guy, Carl Linton, who was the director for the Cleveland show, and he was Black. And you know, Koreans always say, "Oh, when in Rome, do as Romans," but they don't be doing that. They're like, if y'all went to America and saw a Korean person, y'all be all intermingled. So it was a Black dude. I'm like, let me go visit him all the time. But he was married, and in Korean culture, single people aren't supposed to talk to married people. Like, it's weird. And so they would like, I couldn't see him as much as I wanted to because it was like taboo. And I'm like, but he Black though, and I'm Black. That's it. Yeah.
No, I would have had to supersede that rule because it's like, yo, whatever. I mean, we sticking together out here. You know, the thing that was cool, I fell into this group of kids from Atlanta too. There's a bunch of Black people that were teaching English. There were a group of them, and I remember being like, "Yo, where you get J's from?" I was like, "Man, I brought these with me. You ain't about to cop these because you know you can't buy clothes anywhere. It's hard."
Oh no! If you,
I could not buy clothes. I went to Uniqlo and put on
it would be like Adio,
and I put it over my shoulders, and it was like, and I just took it off and put it back in the dressing room and wandered out.
Depending on the store, if you walk in, they be like, "Nope,
nothing for you." Nothing for you. And the thing was, I got a universal shoe size, so 10 and a half. I got, you know, everybody, but it wasn't hard to find. But I had so many clothes with me, I didn't really care. Yeah. I just had to get used to. That was the first time living without a dryer, and now
jeans take forever to dry.
Yeah, now I just have like I still have like a Korean drying rack now though, like in my closet. I'm so used to it now. You know, it makes more sense for my shirts and stuff. But, no, it was cool. And that was my small world experience because he came into Black Dynamite.
Okay.
And he just walked in the office and we were sharing the office together on the other side of the world. It was like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? It was
yeah, I had an experience like that too, but it's like the world is so big, but it's so small at the same time.
I mean, what we do too, I mean, we're gonna have overlap. Like that's, you know, I feel like I know people, like I hang out with them, but it's just because I work with them so much. You know what I mean? It's like I know about your family and all that stuff. Like, I don't even know how that happened.
So something you've said before is do your own stuff and do your own stuff and prioritize that if that's your plan. So like, can you expound on the importance of doing your own stuff?
Yeah. Well, for me, I related to myself. I worked, you know, like 9 years now, like 10 years, and I got into it to make stuff.
Yeah.
I also got into it to learn how to make things better. You know what I mean? Like how to make my ideas to have the highest level of potency. But in chasing that though, you know, you look up and time is gone. You know what I mean? And I'm 35. I can tell the difference from when I was 25. You know, and my energy level, I just can. It's not like it's a dramatic change, but it's not the same. You know, and that's going to continue as we get older. So I think that, you know, if your goal is to be a creator and is to create things, it's better for you to just invest in yourself now, you know, live poor, invest in yourself, get that stuff done because it will pay you so much more on the back end. You know, it's almost like, you know, working to work is perfectly fine. right? That's perfectly fine. If that's what you want to do, then that's great. But if you want to make stuff, I think you should go ahead and make stuff because there's no hold up. I think that you're just going to you're be hustling backwards if you think you want to just like hustle,
Right.
and then prove that you're good enough, and then do something, right? That was a flaw and I feel like in my plan where it was like I was trying so hard to prove that I could do something that I never actually did it, and those are muscles that you need to exercise.
Yeah.
You have to have confidence. I've never put out anything that's been my own necessarily. I've always, which I'm coming up with now. I got a lot of announcements of people coming up soon, but like I've never done it. I just never done it, and I never built those muscles to gain that, to get that confidence. It takes confidence to present your ideas to people when you're the only person that has seen it, right?
Yeah.
And hey, this is dope. More than art, but like your own ideas and concepts and themes and things that you want to explore in your work. Confidence, you know what I'm saying? I don't think that it's hard to gain that late in the game because then you might always fall back to the thing that your comfort zone of like taking a job, and which is fine, but it just depends on what you want. But me personally, that's what I think. I think that it's worth it. I think that I would change my trajectory in many ways. I don't regret anything. I just think that I spent a lot more time on the front end. Knowing how hard it is, because I know how hard it is to do things now. Back then, I had a healthy level of delusion. I could have just, you know what I'm saying? It's like heavy. It's like it's the weight of the weight of knowledge, right?
Yeah. Ignorance is bliss. Like there's so many times it's been proven ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, it's real because it's like now I'm like, damn, if I do that though, it's like I know what it takes now. So it's like, man, if I do that though, that's a lot. That's a lot. It's gonna take a lot. It's gonna take a lot of coordinating. So it's like, am I sure that this is what I want? Right? Which can then it's like stage fright. What I suffer from in regards to that, and I can be transparent about that. Like I suffer stage fright in regards to that because, like I said, it's a muscle.
Yeah. I remember there's this YouTube channel of this black this in Japan. I don't know if he's black, but he interviews different people who are like different black people who do different things in Japan. And he interviewed this lawyer lady.
Things before.
Yeah, it was like this international lawyer. She was a black lady, and she's like, if I knew how much it would have taken to be a lawyer in Japan, I wouldn't have done it. But on the back end, she just trudged through it, and it took like maybe a year or two. But she's like, if I knew it would take a year or two on the front end, I wouldn't have done it.
It's real. That's what I mean. Like I would have just done it because, you have more ownership. The more you do it yourself, the more leverage you have.
Yeah.
And the more you get other people involved, the more diluted your vision becomes. And if you can afford to try to invest some time in yourself and to just chipping away at the project, just chipping away at it and just being consistent in the fact that you're actually trying to chip away at something, I think is like 70% of the battle.
Eat the elephant bite by bite. So can you what are some tips you can give to artists about drawing women? Because sometimes it be these people who be drawing women and it look like men with boobs.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of times people don't look at real women. They look at and I don't mean that in any derogatory way. I just think that like they look at women that have plastic surgery, which that's not the way gravity works in a lot of situations. And and it's like you gotta have, and especially like art is the drawing and stuff like that. That's like the art of implication, right? It's sleight of hand. You want it to feel like something. You want it to feel like you're looking at that. So, the subtle stuff has to go into it because the woman, the drawing, the female form is less is always more. So you need every line has a place. Every line has a place, and every line should be giving you some level of information. So I think a lot of that has to do with it. I feel a lot of times when people draw, they just too much information. There's too many lines. There's or there's too much shadow work. There's too much form work where you know, she's. You know, it's like, yo, why is she so buff? Like, you know, or like, why is she so cut? Like, why is every muscle contracting at one time? It looks like she's having a seizure. You know what I'm saying? So it's figuring that out, and you know, I think that the strength of it is in the strength is how you construct the form, and I think a lot of it starts with the torso, and in the breast area. So it's like the neckline and the breast area. Like I think that up until that waistline and out the shoulders, you just cut it like a bust, like a statue. I think that's the most important part, and also what are the like diagonals? You know, opposing diagonals, like shoulders, hips that way. You know, stuff like that, and the juxtaposing those things and twisting them so that you can see them. But I think the main thing though is like people just they're spelling out too much because they think that people won't get it. You know, it's like, nah, man, it's all there. Just
negative and positive space, like
right. You know, because you need the balance and you need to figure out where your focus is. And if your focus is her face, then spend more time on the face and have more line variation, slightly like, you know, more subtle line variation in the face and the hair and then the neckline. And then as you get away from that, you taper off the amount of detail, you know, almost like a Frank Frazetta painting, you know, where it's like he's not tightening up all of the forms. They're muddy towards the edges, but you get what it's like. And it's like the way that we focus our camera lens or our eye when we're looking at something, and our peripheral is just
yeah. I feel like sometimes artists are drawing without seeing. So like, you know, when all that stuff happened last year, and there was like this, you know, conversation on Twitter, and like white artists were like, oh, I'm afraid to draw Black people, or like, what? Or how do you draw Black people? Like, look at us, see us, and then draw us. Like,
it's not fucking rocket science, you know. Just like look at a photo for once. You know, I think that like people need to stop drawing Black people from their minds.
Yes.
You know, because it's making a lot of people look racist as fuck. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
and stop drawing Black people only when traumatic things happen.
Yeah, like how about just draw a Black person randomly that like is doing something random that doesn't have to be, you know, some kind of like socio-political thing. Just every, you know, I'm about that. Like I rarely have that kind of stuff in my work. Like I've gotten pissed and I've drawn things and I have stuff, but as it stands, I don't know. I don't because I want to see. I just want to see. I don't want everything. Like I understand it's like it's hard being Black in America and not being a part of politics, right? When there's so many politics that actively attack us, you know, have historically. So it's like you can't be to not be somewhat aware of politics. It's almost like, you know, walking in the jungle without a stick. You know what I mean? It's like, and you can't see anything. And yeah, I don't know. I've always kind of wanted to feel like I just want to tell stories where racism is not the villain all the time. You know, I do like those stories too, but I like the balance. You know what I'm saying?
I do like your Casper the Friendly Ghost piece.
I like that too, though. I got a short that I wrote about it recently. I actually wrote it out. Anthony Piper helped me. Yeah, he helped me. He gave me some really cool ideas. I cooled off on it a little bit though, because the visual concept of soul.
Yeah.
Which is, it's fine, but it's I chilled on it because I wanted to be like, let me see how I can make this different. You know what I mean? A little bit different. But I like it though, and it's raw. And it is the opposite of what I just said I don't do, because when that war, like when the Chicago thing was really getting bad, like that was in 2014 I drew that. And it was bad. You know, it was really bad. And it was one of those times where it's like X amount of people had gotten killed over a weekend, and sketch dailies had done Casper the Friendly Ghost. And it just felt like at certain times I felt like white artists get the privilege of being whimsical because they don't deal with the gravity of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? Which is why all of our content is grounded. So I think, and I was just feeling that day. I was like, man, they talking about like all this stuff is going on there. You know, people on here drawing. It's just hard for me to like. It was hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact that people were just overlooking certain situations and could continue about that. And it came from a place of angst. So I was just, man, you know, this is what Casper would really be like. Like, you know, some kid a stray bullet. You know, because the original story of Casper is sad. It's not a lot
of these children's stories we kind of know about are originally sad or creepy.
So, but yeah, that one was real visceral, and I brought that back up to see if it was, you know, it's a fine line with that stuff because I don't want to assault people with images of Black people laying in the street, you know, at the same time, because those seem to last longer. You know, and they assault us with these images through media and things like that all the time. So, you know, there's some level of like, I have to try to figure out what that balance is. And sometimes that pulling the trigger on it and exploring it more, because I'm trying to figure it out too. You know, as we're as us at being Black here and being in animation, being creators in the States, and everything that comes with that is there's a lot in the stew mix. You know what I mean?
Gumbo.
Yeah.
So what do you feel is the biggest breakthrough in your career?
Black Dynamite, probably. Because that changed my life. And it absolutely changed my life. And that's why I haven't even I had to go get the shirt out of the closet. I had to dig for this motherfucker. You know, I had to wear my Black Dynamite t-shirt, you know.
Is this the one you drew?
Yeah. So so what happened, so Carl had like the little thumbnail. He was like, yo, man, we're gonna call it the Hofro. I was like, all right, I'm on board. And so I started drawing it, and I drew the face, and I drew all the women, and drew the head, and everything. And we used the head from the character design sheet. But Juno's head that he had drawn for the pilot had some more graphic elements, which you can kind of see if you look at this face. This isn't necessarily the face that's on the show. It's just everything is in the same spot, but they're slightly different. You know what I mean? And so they used that one, which had more of a graphic kind of look to it. And so it was like, you know, it's a collaboration thing. I did the line art for this. Then Antonio Canobio is our art director at Titmouse, and Nathan Rico was, I think, I don't know if it was, Nathan just kind of did what we call him Rico. Rico just kind of did whatever anybody needed. And so, so Rico took some of the guns, and so Damon Moran, he drew the guns and the cars. And he drew those for another image. And then he just took those design elements and threw them on there. And it was like, yo, this is so fire. And then Diego Milano, who is the showrunner for Victor Valentino on Cartoon Network, he colored it in Flash, and then they made all this stuff for it and stuff. Man, it was real cool. Like that ad campaign was just out of this world. And from going from Charlotte to you know, to just thinking about all that stuff I had been grinding, get a job, and then to be driving down Melrose or driving, and then people taking pictures of Black Dynamite on buildings in Times Square. And then, you know, I drew that. It was on Spotify's front. Like it you know, it's like I wasn't expecting that. You know what I mean? I didn't see it, and it just catapulted me a little bit, and it really helped me because the show was funny and amazing, and everybody killed it. And I'd say the next one probably would be had to be Kipo. Kipo, because that was in the making for so long with Rad, and then Rad gave me an opportunity to direct on that, and getting and working with Chris Copeland, because Chris Copeland was on that at first too, and it was just dope to just see me and Chris Copeland. He put the fact that he got us both to In an Office on his show, directing on this Netflix series for DreamWorks, and to think about all the message boards that me and Kristen share messages in, and you know what I mean? It just was that moment, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it wasn't like it wasn't the glory moment, but it was close.
Yeah.
It was up there, you know.
I just want to take a moment in time in this interview to officially state that you are a self-taught artist and did not go to school, and you are in the animation industry.
Yes.
I just want to point that out to the people that's watching.
I am self-taught.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have I just pulled it from the mud, you know. It's like I know how to learn. You know, you got the internet. And right when I was getting started, all these resources were not available yet. Now it's like it's everywhere. I mean, you can turn around and you trip over a tutorial, a great one, but you know what I mean? Like, not just BS either. Like, you know, so it's absolutely possible. And I advise kids, like, if you want to work, start working.
Right.
If you want to go to school, go to school. If you want to work, then start working. You know, it just depends on what you want. You know, there's no real wrong path. You know, in animation, if you can do the job, you can get the job. And, you know, I don't think you need an MBA unless you want to try to run a publicly traded company, you know, so.
Or be a professor.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I interviewed Craig Clark a couple weeks ago, and he started working in animation when he was still a teenager too. So like, yeah, it's possible. Oh
yeah, absolutely. I seen a kid that he did a whole film at 14. Animated. I was just like, I just wanted to chuck my phone, you know? It's like, yo.
I saw a dude, he did like, this was several years ago, he did a hummingbird. I think he did it in Blender or something like that. And it was really good. And it was like a hobby for him. I'm like,
yo, people kill me with the Blender. Oh yeah, I just made this amazing thing in Blender after work. I'm like, all right. Word.
And when I was in high school, I did this the NAACP AXO program, and I did like this art. I did like a motion graphics piece, and I like won locally, and so I went to Philadelphia for the national, and the person who won in my category, I think I was in like the animation media category, and this 10-year-old boy like created his own like animation, and he deserved it too. I wasn't mad, but I was like, ah.
Yo, it just hurts. That's all. It's like they did nothing wrong. They just used the information that was given, but it doesn't make it less painful, though. It still feels like I got stabbed, like I've been using.
I wish I still had a program to like look up if he's still doing stuff. That was like in 2003 or something. I was like, he deserves to win, though.
I'm glad too, because it pushes the medium. You know, it pushes the medium. When I see things like Arc System Works and what they're doing with Guilty Gear, and you know, it gives me hope that I can design the way I've always wanted to and still have it move. Because my designs, I like to get real elaborate with stuff, you know, but who wants to track all of that shit? Not me. You know what I mean? Just to keep it honest, you know.
Keep it a buck.
You know, that's a lot. You know, that's a lot to track, shot to shot, and frame to frame. But you know, it just depends on it. I love it too, though. I'm not. I love it. I love to do my own stuff. Like I love animate my own stuff. But it's my stuff. I would not expect somebody necessarily to want to do that if they could choose from an easier job. But you know, I'm in it for the love. I'm art. I'm passion first. You know, I'm in the business aspect as I've gotten older. But I'm passion first, though.
So, as someone who has some years in the animation industry, what have you decided what your purpose is in regards to like Blackness and Black professionals in animation?
This is a good question. Yes and no. from a content aspect, I feel fine. Like anything that I do, I think it's gonna be Black. So I feel fine in that. As far as everything else, anybody that knows me, I try my best to, in the last years, that's kind of a wash because COVID, right? But like, I try my best to unify the Black space out here. I try to get people to go to dinner together.
Yeah.
I try to get from industries, games, film, just so we can communicate with each other. We need to be talking. And if I got to be the glue or the gnat at the fucking barbecue that's going to be in somebody's ear until they do it, then that may be my purpose. But I do understand that we need some level of communication, unification, especially because if we all got together, there's so much of us that are so immensely talented. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
We could produce whatever we wanted in any form that we wanted. And I just stress that importance because if people are complaining about not getting Black content to work on, not working with Black people, not, and all the things that come with that, then let's actively try to, have a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my calling. I just really, and because I'm cool with people, like I know people now, I just try to be in their ear when I can.
Yeah.
And lead by example if I can. I ain't perfect, you know what I mean? Like I try my best, but I try to lead by example. But I'm a big believer in the fact that if we just all got together and we were communicating with each other and had just a conference or something where we all on the same page, be moving on code at the same time, we can empower ourselves out here. Because if the thing is, I think a lot of these companies want that. You know, to see, and they want to see our content. And they buy it from us. And if we just need to make sure that we don't have a crab in a barrel mentality, that we're communicating with each other, and that we are trying to put each other in positions to win. And that's kind of my calling, because I don't feel like I can live any other way.
Yeah.
So it's like I got thrust into it by default, and also just try to grow and I do want to say one thing. I do want to do content that is comparable to the things that I consumed that are Black, though. Like Cowboy Bebop or things I've watched over the years that I've referenced so much, and that I produce some work from us on that, because we deserve to see that. And seeing that, you talking about kicking the fucking door down, that will kick the door down when people that stuff and see that it's actually like to see that that's possible. So that's kind of like my life's goal right now, really.
Yeah, my boy Kevin Palmer was my mentor and introducing me to a lot of stuff. People that first month that I was in LA, he just was like, "Oh, let's go here, let's go there." And then when you talk to the various Black animation professionals of all ages, it's like everybody know of each other, but don't nobody know each other.
Exactly. It's crazy because it's like I know of a lot of people, but it's like we hadn't had the time to meet, stuff like that. I think that this year, given the, I don't know I know with COVID and stuff, but like since people are at home and you don't have to be in the studios, it gives us more maneuverability to talk to people throughout the day. I've met people this year like yourself, and last year I never had time to talk to because I was up. I was up boarding till 3 a.m, right? I'm trying to get in the office, dragging my ass in the office at 11. I'm trying to get it together, and then I'm ready to go home after. And then you string a couple months of that together, that just becomes your norm.
Yeah.
And then COVID has broken that up though, because I've gotten a chance to like now we don't have to worry about being quiet like church mice in the studio. You know what I'm saying? And we can talk to people throughout the day. And make our schedules more flexible,
Yeah. What do you hope for the future of animation as far as innovation, storylines, characters? You kind of talked about it a little bit, but
I'm working on Black sci-fi.
Nice.
I want to see niggas in space. Just to get I want to see niggas in space, and I want
niggas in Paris, niggas in space.
I want to see that, and like I said, like in terms of the type of aesthetic, I'm very influenced by a lot of Japanese aesthetic, but I'm influenced by a lot of African art too, and a lot of other things as well. And I just want to put together work that is on that level, you know, on a world-class level. And yeah, I think content-wise. So, but as far as like genre specifics and things like that, I don't really have anything because I enjoy. I mean, outside of the sci-fi thing, because I enjoy everything. Like I love to draw everything. I have fun with all of it. That's the one thing I was fortunate about in comics, because it forces you to draw everything when you do comics. I was so happy that was like my foundation. Yeah, but I want to see that, and I want to see long form too. You know, I don't want to just see a one-off. I want to see a long form storytelling, slow build of some Black characters on some One Piece shit. Like I want to see, you know, where's our 700 episodes of shit? I know people that watch. I know tons of Black people that would watch it. So where is it at? Like we need to see this. I know other people that would watch it too. So I just want to see that. I want to see that, and also I want to do bad as hell. I want to do a dope OVA, like a dope 90s-esque, just 50 minutes or a pure fury of amazing animation. You know, dope, like just a dope story, not action per se, but just like a dope story. But you know how those 90s OVAs, when you used to watching a series and the OVA pop off, and it's like, yo, this hit different, you know? And yeah, that's kind of what I want.
That's what's up. Let's see. So my last question is, if somebody was producing a documentary about you, what things would you want them to highlight about your life outside of your work in animation?
Man, I don't know if I've had a life that was interesting enough. I mean, I have. Probably, I don't know. That's tough. That's really tough. That's very tough. I would think that, I don't know. Maybe my mother's, you know, maybe if I was to think about, maybe I would split the POV between, to make it my mother's POV or something like that, so I could see things that she had gone through in order to manifest the things that I required to be able to be. You know what I mean? Because I think that would be an interesting story. And then, excuse me, then you see how I receive them, which I hope ain't no spoiled brat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just to see that, I think that would probably be interesting to see that dynamic, and then just to see the culmination of that and how I view my mother now. You know what I mean? In terms of how appreciative I am, and things that I did not know, that I didn't know. You know, and I think that that's where I would circle it out at, like, you know, like, look, Mom, I made it, but you know, type of shit or something, you know. But I gotta accomplish something. Now the third act ain't over yet, though. So like, you know, I'm in act one. So you know, I don't know. We'll see. Right now, though, if this is a 3-parter, that's act one. That'd be my first 3. Yeah, you know, that'd be it. That'd be my first OVA. You know, 50 minutes right there, and then the next 50 would be, I guess, my life in Los Angeles, and then you know, we'll wait on the next
in the future
later, like Star Wars.
So, where can people find your work and follow you?
Well, you can find my stuff on Instagram. I don't post a lot of stuff. Mainly, you don't find a lot of my stuff online because NDAs. I've been working, and most of the stuff I've done over the years have been NDAs, and anything that I could release normally I have. I've still got a few things saving for an art book, but you can catch me at Instagram.com/Saint Chase. Saint Chase on ArtStation. Excuse me, and Chase Conley on LinkedIn. You can find me. I have an old DeviantArt page that's under Chase Conley as well, deviantart.com. Wait, what is it? Is it chaseconley.deviantart.com? But I leave that up because it's old work, and I made a mistake years ago. I've been on DeviantArt for 18 years. And, I had another account called Can I Bust. You know, I used to Cannabis the rapper because he was dumb nice, you know. I pulled a bunch of old work and I deleted those JPEGs, and now I don't have that computer anymore from like high school. And I had tons of stuff. I would have loved to have gone back and seen that. So my old DeviantArt stuff, like I really have a hard cutoff where I feel like you see my X-Men stuff. If you ever look at my stuff, I did those after work.
Yeah.
But those are the only things I could do to post up some stuff. So I think anything from 6 months to that, prior to that and after is kind of my newer stuff. But I leave all that old stuff up on DeviantArt for people to see. And I'm not ashamed of my progression. And I think that it's important that people see that, you know, that way you can see this, like, oh, I'm always improving, you know, I'm always trying to improve. You know, I was not always, I don't consider myself great necessarily. I look at people as great, but I think I'm pretty good now, you know, and but I actively have to work at getting better all the time. So I think it's cool that you can see that, you know, because I look at it and I'm like, wow, like that shit looks bad. You know what I mean? But you know, it's kind of cool, you know, it's cool. And I like it. I'm in it for the journey now. You know, I can take my ego out of it because I'm older now, and it doesn't bother me as much. But those are the places you can find me. I got a website launching soon. I got a Kickstarter launching soon, and probably a class I'll be launching soon that all will be getting information about.
Can I ask where St. Chase came from? How did you choose that?
You know what? So there's a couple things. So the homies back home, they called me like the wizard. I don't know why. Shout out to the homeboy Josh, because I could do everything. I guess like I was pretty good at stuff. Like we could play football, install car stereos, install surround sound. You know, draw, crack programs for computers. Like you know, I used to be the BitTorrent king. Like you know, and cracking stuff. And then I was reading The Gods of Eden, Bramley, and they were talking about Saint Germain. And I was talking about cannabis, right? And then cannabis had mentioned he was calling himself Saint Germain. And so I was like, oh, he's pulling from his historical Saint Germain, this guy that claimed he found the fountain of youth. And track of him over 400 years. And he also was he just sold mercenaries. He would hang with the king that sold troops to one side, just go to the other side, kick it with that king, sell them troops, and then just, you know, and the fact that he had claimed that he had found the fountain of youth. And I was like thinking of something that would be better than my first one. My first pen name was Sequence. It's not even original. And because I did sequential art and I put a C in front of it, and I was tired of seeing that on AIM, and that was my AIM name. I was like, man, I'm tired of it. So I was like, I'm gonna be, how can I sound regal? Regal. Oh, I'm gonna do St. Chase. And at first it was St. Chase VSOP, but then I was like, Chase, this sounds like you sound like a hood booger, bro. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna just drop that, and I'm gonna just do St. Chase. And I was 18, or something like that. At this point, because I kept it so long, I didn't change it. You know, I did change my DeviantArt a few years back to just Chase Conley, but you can still search it under St. Chase. But I signed my name that, and it really has nothing other than that. I wish it had some cool
stuff. It's deeper than, and is there anywhere we could find, you still got your beats that you used to make?
I don't know.
Okay.
I might have to ask about that.
Exclusive.
This is investigate.
All right. Thank you for sitting down with me and talking about your life and career. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. And it was cool. Like I said, I love the dialogue. It was good to meet you. We're both in LA. I figured it would probably be a matter of time anyway. So, you know, I'm glad our schedules aligned, and hopefully we can do it again. It was dope to be able to chop it up and just have a regular conversation, I'm always down for that. Like, you just gotta press a button and I can go, you know. I got a lot of shit to say, people. I'm just fucking.
Yeah. So to everyone out there, I want you to like So I Know It's Real, comment and tell me how you feel, subscribe to Seal the Deal, and sign up for post notifications to show your zeal. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Peace.